Hey guys, and welcome back. In our last video, we have finished implementing all our needed game assets. Next step would be for us to implement the player repositioning. For instance, when player overlaps a box, we should push him back. However, before doing so, I had to do some small adjustments to the game. I've done the changes already and pushed them to a specific branch in Git. So during this video, we'll go over the changes I've made and I'll explain you why I have done them. I would recommend you to watch the video until the end because it contains valuable information regarding phone game development. This is the Git repository of the Chester Jetpack game. You can find a link down below in the description. I'll click on the branches and select video 28 branch. Then I'll create a pull request and let's check the source code differences. The first relevant changes were made in the entity size file. Mainly I have created constant variables for most of the sizes which we use. Besides that, I have adjusted some size to follow the 16:9 format. According to these statistics, as of 2020, the most common screen resolution ratio is 16:9. You can search a bit on Google, but basically you'll find the same information pretty much everywhere. Even YouTube uses these ratios for their videos. When you build a game or an app, you have to make sure it looks nice on all kinds of devices. In our case, our game will look the best on most of the devices. Considering we are rendering all our assets based on percentages, the game will still look good on exceptional ratios. I'll put a link to this website in the description and let's head back to our pull request. Most of the changes in this file are related to the resizing or adding the missing constants. Then I also had to change a bit the pillar to make sure the overlapping check works correctly. This is how the pillar assets used to look like. We used to render the back and front part stacked, but when Chester is overlapping the front part, even though the actual asset is not being hit, still our logic qualifies it. This is not okay, and I had to change the assets in this way and render them one on top of another one, depending on the side. But we'll go into the source code changes a bit later. I've fine-tuned a bit the falling and uprising speeds of Chester. Let me know if you notice the difference. I won't go into details about minor changes such as this one in the bomb, which is basically just using the constant ratios. I've also reduced the bomb speed factor so it moves much faster and makes it more difficult to dodge. Another important change is the positioning of our assets. When I was constructing the new story, I've noticed it's much easier to just specify the start position of your asset rather than calculating its middle. Then I have implemented this new interface called getSurface, which will basically return the rectangular of the main animation or image. The reason why I've done this is because you won't know in which direction you should reposition Chester only based on the X. In the first example, we are supposed to push Chester to the left. In the second one, we are supposed to push him up, and in the last one, we should push him down. But X alone won't be enough to classify in which scenario we are. We have already covered the meaning of these changes, so I'll just move on. The pushback method of the player was renamed to reposition and the argument was changed to rectangular. Besides the usage of the constant ratios, the player has now a few new variables. As you remember, the smoke has to be drawn behind Chester, and the X smoke offset is actually the difference between Chester's X and the smoke's X. From functional point of view, there are no changes, but in the future, if we want to push Chester to the left, we simply have to update its X and the smoke will just follow. As I mentioned, when we render the smoke, instead of using the hard-coded values, we'll be using the smoke offset. Previously, the X used to be fixed, and now we do have one variable which tracks Chester's X. I did make this new method called resetPlayerPosition and call it when resize. The Y might be set from different places, and for this, I made a new method called setYPosition, but we'll get to that in a bit. The speed will decrease much faster now, so the player will have to tap the screen much more often. This will make the game more entertaining. The pushback was renamed to Reposition, and we will take care of this in the next video. The set Y position will check if the Y is within the top and bottom limits. The top and bottom limits are set in such a way to ensure Chester won't overlap the top and bottom bars. In the previous implementation, it used to. Reset player's position will simply initialize the Chester's X and Y. It doesn't seem like this is useful, but if you think about it, if Chester hits a box, he should be pushed to the left. And the way I see it, if Chester is pushed outside the screen, we'll have to reposition it and remove one of its life points. We've already spoke a bit about the pillars. Depending on the side, we either have to draw the front part stacked on top of the back part or the other way around. Either way, the overlaps method will be reporting if Chester will truly overlap the front part. I did make a new story and I hope you'll enjoy it. I hope the changes I made are clear to you, but if you get stuck or you have any kind of questions, just comment down below and I'll answer as soon as I can. Now, I will merge the pull request and remove the branch. Considering I'm the only developer working on this project and the game was not published yet, I tend to work on the master branch directly, but generally speaking, it is not a good idea. However, discussing Git matters. It is not the scope of this series, but if you're interested on the topic, let me know and I will start a series on Git tutorials. I will put a link to the pull request in the description and let's head to our emulator to check the results. The new story actually looks quite pretty. I might even reuse some of these constructions when I will be building the final story. If you pay closer attention, from functional point of view, only the speed of Chester and the speed of Rocket has changed. Everything else looks almost the same. Perhaps certain assets were resized, like the spikes. The way I designed this new story is actually specially made to test the repositioning of Chester, which we'll be implementing in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did so, I would kindly ask you to hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you get notified whenever I do post a new video. Thanks a lot for watching and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers!